I hate that person. I hate what they did to me. I'm going to write a character about them, and I'm going to show everybody.
How do you write evil?
Easily enough, unfortunately. I think we got a lot of evil in all of us, so it's okay to just dive into the part of us that's dark. If I'm, I think writing evil is, to write evil, you have to almost pretend like no one's going to read it. Because you don't want anyone to think you're evil.
Right.
My God, I would never be that evil. Well, there's just a beauty to knowing we all have an evil inside us, and we can go there. We just choose not to.
Sure.
So there's just a beauty of just really letting it go on the page, and not and some people will read it and be like, oh, I can't write serial killers. Like that narrative that scares me. I don't like, even I can never watch a serial killer film. Those things just don't make sense to me. But we can find, we can embrace the our tendencies, because we all have bad in us. It's and we're not politicians. Well, politicians have more bad in people than normal, but we're not trying. I don't think we need to present ourselves as beautiful flowers. We're all a little corrupt, and especially in the film industry, you see a lot more corruption under the guise of like, oh, this is virtue, and you get behind the curtain a little bit, and you're like, ew. So it's kind of easy to write evil. It's almost easier to write evil than it is to write evil's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
And do you think it's more interesting to write a virtuous character who secretly has evil, or an evil character that, you see it and you go, okay, this is definitely evil, and then you're seeing sort of what that person's life is like? Are we more intrigued by what's not shown and what we're discovering as the audience?
As well, I'll first answer that as the writer. So what I try to do is, when I go back into my life and I go, you know what? I hate that. I hate that person. I hate what they did to me. I'm going to write a character about them, and I'm going to show everybody just what a piece of crap human being this person is. And when this person watches the movie, they're going to go, oh my God, that's me. I need to change my life. So that's the original intent. And then I start working on the character, and I start massaging the character. And then I start to realize, oh crap, I have empathy for the character. And then I develop more and more empathy, and I'm like, oh crap, that character is part of me. The character may never really grow in the story, may still be a piece of crap in the story, but I develop empathy for why they're not good people. But as far as the layers of an evil person having virtue and a virtuous person having evil, I think I want to tackle both of those. Both of those intrigue me to no end, because there is a flip side to everything. And I don't think, actually, the virtuous person who's not getting in touch with the evil would intrigue me more than working on an evil person that's has virtue, because there's with a virtuous person, they're actively pushing down that evil, where with an evil person, they're actively going, I'm virtuous. No, really, I'm virtuous.
Can you think of any characters that bring to mind that are evil that you actually have empathy for? I know a lot of people have talked about the Joker, but that you go, you know what, maybe this person, you have some soft spot for that person.
Yeah, well, the evil characters, I mean, for the most part, the antagonist, if it's like a superhero movie or a James Bond or a Mission Impossible, the antagonist has to be more interesting than the hero, I think. That the layers got to be there, and then we're like, how is the hero going to get through this? So I find do I have empathy for the hero, for the antagonist, in those kind of hero type movies? I think I just get a kick out of how evil they are. And I'm like happy they're evil because I'm sitting there enjoying their evilness and how is Tom Cruise going to get through blank, blank, blank. In those total formula movies that I just adore beyond belief. I know they're not going to die at the end. That's not the question. The question is, how are they not going to die? That's what keeps us watching.
Why is evil important in storytelling?
I think we're intrigued with evil. I think I grew up in a very religious household, so there's the Bible. The Bible is just all evil. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. Don't do this. There's a lot of, and then they go through this. There's so many evil stories in the Old Testament. You're like, wait, God's telling you to kill your own son? I think our collective mythology has just a ton of evil in it, and we may try to paint it as like, oh no, we're all good, but you think about how we got here and what's going on, and evil is the theme. Genghis Khan, man, that guy's a hero of his narrative, but what did he do? Actually, I can't remember. What did he do? He pillaged and, it's like the Norwegians, the Vikings, what did they do? They're heroes of their own stories, but they're decimating cultures. So I think it's a general narrative of what we should explore, and then how are we coping with the evil around us, and then how are we coping with empathizing with evil things, and there's beautiful times when I have evil thoughts, even if I'm just driving around Los Angeles and I'm like, that person who cut me off probably shouldn't exist on this earth. There's a little joy to having that fantasy, even though we don't act out the fantasy, but we do get to write down the fantasy. So I don't think we don't go through the whole day with all virtuous thoughts. I was just at Starbucks getting a cup of coffee, and this idiot in front of me had this two different credit cards, all these stipulations to his order. All he got was one drink and one thing. I thought he was an Uber Eats guy. And this guy is just bum, 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 and I'm sitting there going, that guy might be, it's part of the human collective. He may be dispensable. And then it's just, it's a fun thought to think about. But in real life, we never do it. And then if I followed him home, I would see that he's a good father to his kids, and he was just having a rough day. So that's, there's evil and there's empathy. We need the whole, I guess we need the whole story, and that's why we tell the story. We need the whole story to map out the whys of he was the antagonist in my life for 5 minutes because my venti coffee was late.
Okay. No, I
talk about going way out.
I saw someone at a store the other day trying to return something, but quote, didn't have the credit card.
Yeah.
And was arguing, and the workers were very nice, and they said, I'm really sorry, sir. If you come back with the credit card, you'll be fine. No, I need service, and wouldn't take no for an answer. And in that moment, I'm looking at the person like, okay, this is weird and doesn't seem right. But who knows, maybe legitimately it didn't have the credit card and he had the receipt.
Or they shouldn't be on this earth anymore.
They had all this stuff. But my point is,
yeah.
I mean, we used to see tabloids and we would see evil there. And now we can go on social media and now we're all judges of what's evil. Even if it's one video of somebody pushing someone in a convenience store.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happened on the other end. We don't know. We just see that one snippet, And so now we're watching evil played out in real life, quote unquote, but we don't know who really was the offending party, who was the first one to sort of prompt something. So,
and that's really intriguing because that's all point of view. So we're getting everyone tells their own truth, and I'd rather have that in fiction and on the page and be able to work it than to try to understand the real social media conflicts that we get. That's where I'm just like, I'm skeptical of all of them.
Is it healthy for writers to go to dark places?
I used to think that it was important to live. one of my favorite writers is William T. Vollmann, and he's a guy that would stay in the Tenderloin and stay at a house and do crack, and he's actively said these things. So I'm not. I even interviewed him. It's published, but he would actively go to these places, and I thought, you know what, I need to do what he does, not to the crack end, but I needed to be around certain elements that were dark in order to get inspiration. And I realized I really don't. It's there's dark everywhere. We don't need to seek it out. There's dark amongst us, and and maybe that's why Vollmann's written so many more great books than I've ever written. Maybe I'm doing it wrong and he's doing it right when he goes. I mean, he embeds himself in war and does a lot of. He's what he does is gets there and feels it and needs to know the whole story. But that's what he's writing. I'm not writing that, and I don't need to. I don't need to essentially try to lose my mind if I'm working on a character that's trying to lose their mind, that's losing their mind, and then go, wait a second, I need therapy 3 times a week now. It's just, I think what I need to do is to, and what all writers need to do is just go, what's my personality? Who am I? I don't need to try to be someone else. I would love to be a Vollmann, but I'm not a Vollmann. So it's within my parameters and my daily life. The dark comes to us no matter what. It's anyone who seems as privileged and wealthy and it seems like they have it all together. No, there's dark there. They don't need to go move into a dark area. They have a wealth of material that they can build from their own experience. And yeah.
Sure. So the sort of gonzo journalism, Hunter S. Thompson approach, you don't have to necessarily take that. But what about recounting dark stories? Do you find sometimes with your students that they have a tough time, or there's others that they can't turn it off, that it's like flows like a bad faucet?
Well, the problem with the true stories that come in with my students is they say, oh no, this really happened and this is true. And I'm like, but it's not interesting enough. You're not putting enough conflict in there. So it's usually, this happened and this made me really upset. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but make me care. So it could be based on something true, but to make that particular event that was true to you and dark to you, to make it universal, you're going to have to really kind of dissect it. You're going to have to maneuver it around. You're going to have to play with it and massage it to get the essence of what happened. We need the emotional essence of what happened. We don't need the play-by-play. So when it comes to true things that happened, I think a lot of the times when I'm dealing with students is get out of the play-by-play. What's the emotional effect that you're trying to get through? Because there's more truth to conveying the emotion than just showing the play-by-play. Because we want to get to the hearts of our readers and audience.
Do you think that sometimes we think a story is interesting and it's not really that, or that any story can be interesting, even if it's just someone waiting in line for coffee and there's a person who's paying with 2 credit cards and needing special attention?
Yeah, it's. I think every story is interesting, but that's when the idea comes up. This idea sounds good, but it has to be put on the page. The idea that's not put on the page is not a fleshed out idea. So, who wrote that book? The timeline of the book is a guy on an escalator going down or up the escalator. I think it's called Mezzanine, and I can't remember the author's name right now. And that sounds like a very boring book. If you were to pitch that, oh yeah, this whole book is based on a guy going down an escalator in a mall. That's like, well, that doesn't sound interesting. Put it on the page though, craft it, and then it becomes something that people are engaged with. So I think we can knock out our, I find joy in in the most mundane things, and then I'll write them down, and then as I keep writing them and massaging them, then I'll be like, oh wait, there is something in there. There's something in the mundane. Oh, that's cool, but it has to be written for anything to happen. That's so. If I were to write that story about the guy at Starbucks, probably most of the story would be based on what person I am, but not, that's how I would approach it, but I wouldn't approach it from that point of view. I would approach it as the hero of the story, but it would be dissecting everything that's terrible about my thought process, while as I'm writing the protagonist, that's me, that protagonist is not going to know that their thought process is terrible. And then that's where comedy will probably come in, because the urge to do all these certain things, I'll look back at it and I'll be like, that's when I find the empathy in other people, and I realize the stupidity of myself, and the stupidity is glorious. And it's just like this presumptuous, who am I to judge? And it's just like, I think that's the juice. That's a lot of fun for me.